Hi, I'm Samia Salim. I'm a UX design leader with over 20 years experience in the product design space. I recently was a head of UX at Unity Technologies, running their consumer online experiences. And my most recent role was a senior director of UX design at Nike, helping transition their enterprise user experience to be more modern and cutting edge like their consumer. Today, I'm going to give you some common advice that I normally give to startups. Number one, talk to users as early as possible. I know this sounds really obvious, but sometimes people forget to do it because they're so attached to their product. So get out of your comfort zone and talk to the people that are using your product or who you believe are going to be your first target users. In order to talk to your users, it's super simple. Just email friends of friends or potential, reach out to your network. I need a developer who works in this kind of space and I need to spend 20 minutes with them. And that's all you need to do. And sometimes if you're nice, buy them a cup of coffee, give them an Amazon gift card, give them a sticker. People love being the first users of your product, and people actually love giving feedback more than you would believe. When you're not sure what kind of feedback you're looking for, you just want their initial perspective. Ask them, what's your first impression when viewing my website or viewing my app? What are some of the first things you see? Does this copy make sense? What would you click or tap on? What motivates you? Would you share this with a friend? Those are some great questions to start with. The best way, if you're getting, various different kind of feedbacks from various different users, it's really helpful to find the trends within the feedback. So if 3 users are all saying, "Oh, I don't like this copy. It seems like mumbo jumbo." Then there's a rhythm with the number 3 of if someone sees something 3 times, that you should probably consider changing that. But if one person is "I don't like the color purple," and the other person's "I don't like the color pink," that's really up to you and your decision making of how you want to, if you want to change the colors or not. But really, some of the big intuitive things come from patterns. So if people are saying it at least 3 times or more, it might be worth considering to update or change. If you're new to getting feedback from users or you're not really sure where to start, I would say the best way to start is reaching out to your network. So asking a friend, for example, if your product is focused on developer experiences, you want to try to target the users that you're going to be that are going to be using your product. So in this case, developers. So you probably worked with developers before in your past, or if you haven't, reach out to folks in your network or in your circle that might be able to give you, just say, hey, 15 minutes of your time, 20 minutes of your time. You don't need a lot of time to start, but you need at least 3 to 5 people just to begin to understand if what you're showing them is working. So I would say, start with 5, but if you need to get 3, that's a really great place just to begin. And once you kind of have the connections, just get it on your schedule and just, get them on a Zoom, or if in person, that's great. And try to record it just so you can reference some of the feedback they're giving, because sometimes it's hard, they go pretty quickly. And what I've learned is a lot of times when you're just talking to them without showing them, what they say is actually very different than how they experience the product. So it's best to just show them and let them communicate to you as much as possible what they're experiencing. The second piece of advice, and these kind of go together, is define your user personas and then map them out to your journey map. And what that means is a user persona is usually a fictitious character that's created, usually done by validated research. But if it's totally fine if you want to just kind of guess and use knowledge share, that's usually called a proto-persona. But that's really what your kind of target user really is. So you define characteristics, behavioral patterns, just high level stuff. So for example, if your end user is going to be a developer, a front end developer, so you might write, they've been in the industry for 5 years. They like to play around with new React code bases. They love to explore in mobile, for example. So you're starting to build out who this person is. And a lot of times a name is given, and the real goal of a user persona is for the team to start to identify a kind of a fictitious character, but a real person of who your users are going to be. And then tying that to a journey map. So say your persona is Jake, he's a front-end developer, works in mobile, and you're developing or designing a mobile app that allows front-end engineers to look at, say, like maybe it's around like data segments, like how they can see if how their sites are performing. So Jake, your developer, how would he get to, what's he doing before using your app? How is he kind of exploring when he gets to your app? How does he experience an app from like onboarding to like first touch? And then after the app, what is he doing? So the user journey really kind of targets things in phases for Jake, like before, during, and after. And then that allows you as a team to really understand the gaps of like, maybe, we didn't think about what Jake does before, how he might learn about the app. Maybe it's from word of mouth, maybe he finds it on Product Hunt, something, and then all the way through. And it allows you to really also understand what some of the opportunities are. So like moments of where your app might not be doing great, or moments where it's like doing really well, where Jake is like super happy and having a great time. So it allows you to really think about the entire end-to-end experience of your product, not only just in the app, but before and after. So a good example of a persona that we use at Nike was a persona that we created called Sam. Sam was Nike's assortment planner, which basically is an internal Nike employee that plans the assortment for Nike's products to basically predict when and where inventory is going to be, so Nike can sell the right product at the right time. So as a team at Nike, we used, everyone knew Sam, the assortment planner. He was used across like a plethora of products and product teams, designers, engineers, to really just, anytime we were thinking about the problem that we're trying to solve, we'd always reference Sam and where he's at in his journey. So Sam, the assortment planner, definitely came to life for us. And we had an whole illustration for him. We had like a whole background about him. And some people thought he was real at one point. I'm like, no, he's not a real person. We made him up. he's our persona. So when doing journey maps, I highly recommend using a collaborative tool. FigJam is a great tool for this. Miro could also be used for this. And the reason for that is a journey map is never done alone. Ideally, you want to get your end user, if you know who your end user is and you have actual users, you bring them on board to do this map with you. And you also bring your product team along. So the people that are working on the product. So your engineers, your product managers, other designers, data scientists, you name it. So ideally no more than 10 people to do this exercise. But the reason for that is you're trying to map the scenario of that user, and you're trying to validate if what you believe the phases are is actually accurate. So a lot of times as product teams, we're very close to the product. So sometimes we think we know what the user is actually doing, versus when you map it out and you validate it with the user, there may be some gaps or some opportunities that are working or not working. So journey map basically outlines like phases, like what the user is actually doing, what tools they're using while they're doing those things, and then the pain points that are happening across those moments. So, usually it takes anywhere from an hour to 5 hours, depending on how complex your journey is. But it's a pretty real-time collaborative effort where everyone's on the whiteboard kind of talking about like, oh, before they start using the app, they're doing this. During the app, they're doing this. But we notice there's like something weird happening on the onboarding and there's some drop-off happening. So the journey map actually allows you to track all of that in a very visual way. And a quick fast follow after journey map is actually putting things into a potential sprint. Like, oh, we're noticing that there's drop off here in the onboarding. We might want to have design think about how we might be able to fix that. Or we notice that there's these error messages happening at this point. We might need to think about having that earlier in a sprint for engineers to work on versus later. So it kind of opens your eyes on the current journey of the user and what they're actually experiencing. The third and like most practical advice I would give is really invest time and effort into the onboarding experience. A lot of times this is the first time the user is seeing your app or product. So you really want to get it right. Like how many steps is it going to take for them to sign on? If there is like a password validation or a code validation, how does that work? Is it really simple and intuitive? You don't want to be the place where you have really beautiful designs, but the interactions aren't hitting with the user. So just make sure that you get it right. You can always do testing before this. So you can go back to the group of people that you reached out to initially to get some, understand who your personas were and bring them here and say, hey, we're doing some onboarding. Can you walk through this flow and see if it makes sense to you? So always highly, highly recommend, and if you want to hire a designer or get the right user experience person to look at that and make sure that it's right, it's really important and can be really powerful for your business.